My daughter asked me to play Thriller as we were driving to school last week. My dad introduced me to Michael Jackson at the earliest age, and I did the same with her. So, is she allowed to listen to his music now? Should we grasp this opportunity to raise a new generation of children who don't know his music? And if so, how do I explain this to her, that she can't listen to Thriller anymore? This extends beyond the fallen king of pop. Can I still laugh at a Louis C.K. joke?
But maybe.
Am I allowed to enjoy a masterpiece of American cinema, such as American Beauty? I often find myself secretly watching or listening, but only dare talk about this with my small circle of trust. And there is no right answer. We are not going to agree today, but we should talk about it. Media has pushed us to the extreme. You either pick a side or face the consequences. There is no middle ground. And in this case, there are two extreme positions that are equally wrong. One, that the author's life is tied to the meaning of his work, and those two can't be separated.
For those of us climbing to the top of the food chain, there can be no mercy.
And two, the work is something completely independent from the author.
Because you get to have those thoughts. I have to have them. You're a tourist in sexual perversion. I'm a prisoner there.
We'll get back to this in a second. Let's start on common ground. I believe the victims. It takes an amazing amount of bravery to come out and denounce such a traumatic experience, to risk being in the public eye with people questioning you, suing you, or even threatening you. The fact that the Harvey Weinsteins of the world have gotten away with this for years speaks terribly about our society. But the fact that in the past couple years, this movement has spread across the world, has given support to the victims and exposed hundreds of these cases, truly gives us hope that we are moving forward. But it's not the Weinsteins of the world with whom I struggle with. I only knew Weinstein by name. It's the artist we loved, or the one with whom we grew up with. So let's go back to those two wrong, extreme statements. The author's life is tied to the meaning of his work, and they can't be separated. We can't separate Hitler's life and ideas from Mein Kampf. The book is his autobiography, and it was used to promote the Nazi movement. To say they can be separated would be foolish. In this case, they are equal. But we appreciate Van Gogh's paintings for their aesthetic properties and the innovation of his Impressionist style. Not many people really know either his life or his ideas except for art critics or art historians. Would discovering that he was in fact a disgusting person change the quality of the paintings themselves? No. Should they still hang at the museum? Dalí, for example, was a longtime fascist sympathizer. Would this change the qualities of his paintings? What about Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who was a close friend to the Cuban Revolution and Fidel Castro? And in this case, his stand on politics had an obvious impact in the way he told 100 Years of Solitude. Even if you disagree with his political views, it's quite clear that his book has inherent qualities that even his opponents would praise. We can't easily separate a work from his author's intention and life. But looking at his life does not tell us what makes his work brilliant. The genius of a work is embedded in the work itself. A work has autonomy. What makes a great movie is not the life of the filmmaker, but its narrative structure, its aesthetics, the play of the actors. Again, the movie has its own autonomy. Now, the life of the filmmaker can tell us about why he chose to make such a movie and how he made it, but it does not give anything about why the movie is great in itself. Think Spielberg and Schindler's List, a powerful film enhanced by the fact that Spielberg is Jewish. And you could even argue that the same film, directed by someone without his background, would be less powerful. So, many will argue that because of the filmmaker's immoral actions, it is therefore immoral to watch the movie. Like Van Gogh's painting, the movie will remain unchanged. It's all about what it means to watch it. As if watching it implies a form of support of the crimes or the acts of the filmmaker. Let's look at the other side. The work is completely separate or independent from its author, or as Brett called it, the death of the author. To give a text an author is to impose on this text a padlock. It is the power of a last signified. It is to close the writing. His proposal in the mid-20th century debated the status quo, in which the author reigned as a sovereigner on the meaning of the text. And the reader had only the task of retrieving the author's intention in order to reach the proper interpretation. According to Foucault, we must then abandon definitely the question of the origin and accept the inherent plurality of the text. We all somehow produce the text or the work of art by experiencing it. We all produce new meanings, whatever we think. And there is just no way to disagree, as there is nothing to disagree on. If the meaning is my own experience of the work, then everybody has his own, and there is nothing to argue about. The problem with that position is you might interpret Picasso's Guernica in any way you like, but it does not change the fact that it is a painting denouncing war. We can't just get rid of the author's intention. The meaning of a work of art is always defined by the author's intention, but its meaning is something different than my own feelings toward that work, or towards the author himself, that I may personally despise. The news of Michael Jackson's child abuse are fresh, if you don't count the 2 trials as a warning. So maybe the first thing we need is time. Take a look at the adventures of Tintin. It's very likely that the author, Hergé, was anti-Semitic. He worked with the Nazis during their occupation of Belgium, and some of Tintin's stories written during that time had anti-Semitic jokes that were later edited out. And still, his work transcends the man, to the point where Steven Spielberg himself directed a movie based on his beloved character. Can we allow Michael Jackson's music to transcend Michael Jackson the man? Knowing what we know today, it'll likely be impossible to disassociate one from the other. So where do we stand? Where can we stand? What is the middle ground here? We have established, maybe, that the work has remained unchanged. In case of Michael Jackson, there's also no argument to funding his abuse, because any royalties coming from his work will go to his children, who I guess nobody will argue are innocent in this ordeal. But what about Louis C.K. or Geoffrey Rush or Morgan Freeman, just to name a few? While their accusations are certainly not as serious as child abuse, they all stand denounced of sexual harassment, with charges varying in severity. Most have apologized, accepted their blame, and taken the fall. But what comes next? Are they allowed to work ever again? Are we allowed to enjoy their work ever again? Nobody is stopping Harvey Weinstein from collecting royalties every time you watch a movie that his firm produced. And the list is very long. The real question here is not whether the acts of a person change the meaning of a work. The question is what it means for us to see or hear the work of someone we despise. And that is maybe the point. The question is what it means for us. If we can agree that the work of the artist is unchanged, then the question of enjoying it or not is a personal one. Some might be too disgusted to even listen to Michael Jackson music ever again, but some of us can still enjoy the music while denouncing the singer. We should have the option of choosing how we feel about them. But you, society, media, the internet, are quick to judge and quick to react when we disagree. And many extreme opinions are forged by what we read and what we watch. If we agree that we can enjoy the music while denouncing the artist, then Van Gogh's paintings can still hang at the museum. And those movies should still be on Netflix as a choice. Banning things doesn't give people a choice. The middle ground is where I stand. And yes, let's disagree. It's not black or white. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. My cousin Daniela and I had been meaning to make this video essay for a while. This is the first time I make a video essay, and I sort of got some help from the smart one in the family. It's a very sensitive topic, of course. We wanted to bring out the topic in a way that we think it's not being discussed, in a very personal challenge for us, and I'm sure for a lot of people, on deciding whether we can still watch and enjoy this content. But let me know what you think. Most importantly, let's have a civilized discussion. So if you're gonna leave a comment or start a discussion with somebody, let's do it. But we just, let's not attack each other. Let's just have a civilized discussion about this. This is probably gonna generate very extreme feelings on some people, but let's not that translate into extreme comments. Your subscription helps support my channel. I reached 1,000 subscribers last week, which was really cool. I guess it speaks to doing some things right, at least. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you, hopefully, next week.